Every day, PETA saves lives through its unique community animal project, where the goal is giving animals the quality of life they deserve. What that means to Missy the dog, Nadia the cat, and Ben and Jack the two pigs. Next on the PETA Podcast. Welcome to the PETA Podcast. I'm Emil Guillermo, your host for this behind-the-scenes look at PETA, the largest animal rights organization in the world. Here we talk to the key players at PETA and the movement and ask them about how animal rights change their lives and how they stay motivated to make the world a better place for the animals. On today's episode, PETA's Community Animal Project serves the Norfolk, Virginia area but finds homes for animals around the nation, even for pigs.
Yeah, we don't turn any animal away. So just this past weekend on Saturday, we made the trek to the state of Ohio to transport two pigs to their new home. And the pigs actually hung out here at PETA shelter for a couple of days while they got neutered and got their health certificates and all the vaccines they needed for the journey.
PETA's Emily Allen says there's no formal spay and neuter program for pigs, but if it has to be done, well, it's one of the things that makes CAP, the Community Animal Project, special. The story of Ben and Jack, the brother pigs, a cat named Nadia, and Missy the dog, next. But first, thanks again for joining us here at the PETA Podcast. Please share a link with friends. Let them know the animals have a voice on the PETA Podcast. And if you've just found us, welcome and keep binging. There's lots to listen to on the PETA Podcast. You probably know it's horse racing's primetime season, and it's coinciding with PETA's efforts to stop the cruelty in that so-called sport. There have now been more than 24 horse deaths at California's Santa Anita racetrack since December 2018, and PETA has pressed for both a DA's investigation and legislative action, including a call to shut down racing at Santa Anita. Check out our racing episodes 60, 59, and 67 and learn how the issue has evolved. Remember, if you're on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to rate and review the show. It helps the algorithm know that PETA has a podcast on the issues important to you. There's also a link to a survey in our show notes if you're so inclined. We'd love to hear your feedback. Now, if you really want to help the animals, you can always hit the Donate Now button at PETA.org. And if you're high-tech and have Amazon's Alexa, it's as easy as saying, Alexa, donate to PETA. And now to our episode. Sometimes people don't realize that as well as being the largest animal rights organization in the world, concerned with the big picture issues, PETA also runs a licensed animal shelter in Norfolk, Virginia. The common problems of animal rights are dealt with every day by CAP, the Community Animal Project. So there's the story of Missy the dog, who'd been seen as an outdoor-only dog until PETA was able to bring her indoors, and Nadia the cat, abandoned by her owners in the parking lot. Or the story of Ben and Jack, two pigs offered for free at a strip mall parking lot. CAP saved them too. Emily Allen is the assistant manager of CAP. I talked to her about those stories and how she found her way to PETA.
I started at PETA 14 years ago, almost to the day. I've been here ever since. I actually started as an intern here at PETA, then took a job in the Cruelty Investigations Department, which it's warped into a few different things over the years, but the Community Animal Project has always been a division within the department. So I've been here ever since.
Boy, 14 years. Now, I know there are people who have been there 30 years, so 14, yeah, that's good. You know, we'll give you another dozen years and then you'll be up there. But still, there are people who are maybe listening who might think that animal rights is, if you say you're an animal rights activist or if you're a PETA person, they automatically think you're just some person with a picket sign on a street corner, yelling, save the animals or free the animals. But it's a career thing. It's a not just a lifestyle, but it's also a career that obviously, because you've been there 14 years, you found very satisfying.
Yeah, I feel really lucky, and I think my parents will tell you this. When I was probably 15 or 16, and, kind of you start having pipe dreams about what you want to do with your life and what direction you want your life to take. This is kind of, I didn't exactly know it at the time, but this is kind of always the job that I envisioned for myself. And I actually vividly remember a conversation I had with my mom when I was in high school about the job and career I wanted. And this was more or less what I described. And, I think it's pretty cool to have a job that your 15-year-old self would be proud of, so I think that's pretty neat.
You're from Minnesota, and you thought about PETA back there in the cold. You thought, I want to go to Norfolk and work for PETA. How did that work out? I mean, were you always a cold weather animal lover?
No, I do have a twin sister who coincidentally also works at PETA, and she actually was the first person to introduce me to PETA back in when we were probably 18, 19 years old. And I got the job first at PETA, and then a few years later she followed, and she works in our UK office. So, I always knew I loved working with animals and for animals. Obviously, I had, I didn't know what form that would take me or exactly where that would take me, but I've always known about PETA. I've always had a desire, as long as I can remember, to work at PETA, even from northern Minnesota.
People who may be listening who, they call themselves animal activists, but they have other lives and other careers. And, they might go to a protest or they might go to a fundraiser. But to be a careerist, what does it take to say, I want to be there. This is going to be my life. This is going to be my work. What does it take to be a career animal activist who goes beyond mere protest, and it becomes not just the lifestyle, but the work style?
Yeah, I mean, I think working at PETA, it is not for the faint of heart. I think it's more than just liking animals or even loving animals. I mean, you have to have kind of a fire under your bum to stay motivated day after day. And, the really exciting part about this job is that it changes from day to day, and no day is alike. And, I think most of us here at PETA can say that you never know what to expect or what may be coming your way. And of course, some days are more routine or mundane than others, but then no day is the same. And so it's really not a job that you can tire of or bore of, in my opinion, because you constantly have different things being thrown at you, and you try to juggle a million different tasks. And unfortunately, there's no, in my particular job, there's no shortage of animal cruelty that needs to be addressed.
So you got to have that fire either in your belly or under your bum.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. And I think we see a lot of really sad, depressing, even images or videos, or, in real life, this job does take a toll on you. And so I think you have to be able to balance the good with the bad and focus on the animals that you can help, the victories that you've been able to achieve. Because if we all focused on animals that are still out there suffering, I think you would be too bogged down to be able to do anything productive. And so I think just having a mindset where you can really enjoy the victories when they come and focus on even small victories. Getting a dog spayed for us that we've been trying to spay for maybe years, that's a victory for us. Focusing on those things, I think, really helps keep you going.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those animals that have really meant something to you. And you are now part of that community animal project. So tell me about some of the animals that, when you think about what you do, you think about your life. I think one that comes to mind, Missy, comes to mind. Tell me about Missy.
Yeah, Missy is a dog from Suffolk, Virginia, that many of our field workers here over the years had been had been visiting, and not just Missy, but there was a dog named Itchy that one of our longtime donors adopted some time ago, and Itchy has since passed on, but he came from the same property. So this is a woman we've known for more than a decade, and that we've really befriended over the years, and that's the address that Missy came from.
Well, I mean, you knew the property, and there was a dog, but the dog was being mistreated?
The dog wasn't being abused, but she certainly was being neglected. And the woman who owned Missy, she loved her in her own way. Now, is it the same way that I would love my dog? No, because the dog Missy was never brought inside, but she wasn't abusive, and the majority of the situations we see in the field are not abuse situations. They're simply neglect situations. And unfortunately, the animals suffer the same. But she was being kept in a pen outdoors, in a pretty trash-filled pen, more or less her entire life. And, just living in isolation, which is really the cruelest punishment we could invent for a dog. And she was being fed and watered on a regular basis, but obviously dogs need so much more than just food, water, and shelter.
So why did the woman finally say, okay, you can have her? I mean, because it sounded like she loved her enough, but not enough. Is that it?
On our last visit it's been about 3 weeks ago, we just went on a routine visit. She also has some cats that we've helped her spay neuter over the years, and a small Chihuahua who does live inside, who we neutered some time ago. And we noticed Missy was coughing, and her stomach was a little bit more bloated than usual. And so we heartworm tested Missy, which is unfortunately very common in this area because heartworms is transmitted by mosquitoes, and mosquitoes are pretty bad in this neck of the woods. So we heartworm tested Missy, and unfortunately she was positive, which is not only is it an expensive treatment, but they also have to be kept indoors during the treatment, which her owner just wasn't able to do for her. And so she finally understood that the kindest thing she could do was to relinquish custody of her and give her a chance and have somebody else try to do that for her.
Was it sad for her to give up Missy?
I think it was bittersweet. She knew she was doing the right thing. Of course, she's had this dog, confined in a pen in her backyard for 10 years, but she was attached to her, but she also knew she couldn't provide the proper care for her. And I do think, she also understood that she probably would be happier being indoors. She just, for reasons I can't, really fully describe to you, wasn't able or willing to do that.
Now, a lot of people might say, come on, PETA, this woman loves her dog in her own way. You might love her more, but was it fair to maybe guilt her into giving her up, or is that the way you would describe it?
Yeah, I mean, nobody guilted her into anything, and we don't force people to do things that they don't want to do. I think, I think every animal deserves a chance to live indoors and to have access to veterinary care when they need it. And unfortunately, when it comes to heartworm treatment, that is something she would die from, and it's a slow, painful death without treatment. And, and again, she has to be kept indoors and be kept pretty still during the course of her treatment. And it's not so much the money thing. Of course, heartworm treatment is expensive, but it's the fact that she wasn't able to keep her inside, and wouldn't be able to prevent her from getting other types of diseases or infections if she were outside, even if she was, treated this one time. So, and I think she understood that nobody was implying she was being cruel, and we consider her a friend. And I think she, greatly considers us a friend and a resource, and, not somebody who strong arms her into doing anything that she didn't think was right.
Well, that's my point. That PETA is not like the Snidely Whiplash stealing animals and trying to make them better, but that you had a relationship with this woman and were able to kind of coexist and help her out, and finally she relented. But still, some people would say, well, she has a right to treat her dog the way she wants as long as she's not totally abusing him or her. I guess, but
yeah, and the law does require veterinary care, and so if somebody isn't able to provide vet care for their animal for whatever reason, and understandably so, because veterinary care can be expensive, then oftentimes the kindest thing they can do is to relinquish custody of the animal, especially if the dog is living outside in a pen 24/7. And allow another group, or in this case PETA, to provide that care and hopefully get the dog placed into a indoor home where they are truly a member of the family.
And so that happened to Missy. And while this is going on, or before it happened, you were visiting Missy on a regular basis to make sure that despite her circumstances, she was there was a kind of a minimum standard of care.
I mean, over the years, we spayed her, we vaccinated her, we helped with the dog house, we helped with dog food and flea and tick medication in the summertime, and we even, made a couple visits to her house where we thoroughly cleaned out her pen, which it took hours upon hours to do because it was trash filled and fairly feces filled, and we've helped take Missy on walks when we visited her to kind of give her some fresh grass to sniff and, just give her some exercise and some companionship. And so over the years, we really built a relationship with not only Missy, but also with the woman that owned her.
And so now, because of her medical condition, you were able to gain custody of her, and now she's in a much better situation. Describe that.
Missy was lucky. I mean, despite being forced to live outdoors in a barren pen and really being deprived of so much, and again, not just she had food, water, and shelter, but being deprived of proper socialization, of the chance to meet other dogs or other animals. She's doing remarkably well, considering this is her first time in an indoor environment. She's staying at PETA shelter at the moment. She goes on walks quite a bit throughout the day. She loves smelling grass. She's, believe it or not, it only took her about a week to learn how to use the bathroom outside, and now she's 100% housebroken. So for a dog who had a really pretty tough, go at it in life, she has adjusted to indoor living quite well. I mean, it's actually very remarkable how well she's doing. And of course, we started her on the heartworm treatment to get her to hopefully get her to be heartworm free in the near future. And all the while, we continued looking for a home for Missy.
How old is she, and who do you think is a kind of candidate to be her human companion?
Yeah, Missy's about 10 years old, and she's, despite the heartworm disease, she's in remarkably good health for a senior gal, and she doesn't have any experience with dogs, and she certainly doesn't mean to be aggressive to dogs, but because she was deprived of that proper socializing with dogs at a young age, unfortunately, she doesn't know how to properly communicate with dogs. So her ideal home would be one where she is the only animal in the home. And, unfortunately, those dogs in the rescue world, or those homes, are not always that easy to find, because many people who do rescue animals already have several dogs or several cats, or plan to get several more in the future. So that can often be a hindrance in finding an animal a home. But in Missy's case, she got very lucky. We had just the right couple in mind for her, and she will be going to her new home a week from yesterday, so next Monday.
Wow. And so she's going to be going close by, I guess, no?
No, but she will actually be traveling down to Florida. So she is Yep. It's also, we kind of joke because it's her retirement home, so it's only natural that she goes down to Florida.
So this is a good story.
It's a great story. I mean, it really couldn't be honestly a better story. And while we wish we would have gotten her years ago, it's wonderful knowing that she will spend her golden years in the best home possible.
Missy is one dog out of many, and the Community Animal Project saves all these dogs. They stay in the PETA shelter until you find homes, and the homes could be anywhere in the nation, right?
We do transport quite a few animals to homes, especially up the East Coast. In the case of a large dog, they may we likely wouldn't fly them anywhere, so we would drive them to where they need to go. But we're lucky enough here at PETA that we do have the resources that if there is an A+ stellar home available, that we want to get that animal, especially because most of the animals that come to us have been so deprived their entire lives. And so we want to get them into a stellar home where they have the chance just to live out their life and, be a real companion and a member of the family.
Now, if you didn't find a home, there's no time limit. What happens if there was no takers for someone like Missy?
But we never put a time frame on a dog. We don't say, you have 5 days or 10 days or whatnot. It all is dependent on the individual animal. And in every case, we will do what is right for that animal. There, unfortunately, so many of the dogs that we get, they have been chained their entire lives and deprived of everything that's natural to them, that they may be aggressive. They may, have medical issues that are beyond anyone's scope to repair. And they just behaviorally may be too far gone to be adopted out. And so in those scenarios, the kindest thing we can often do for those dogs is to have them euthanized. And certainly that's not a decision we make lightly. And that's one we wish we wouldn't have to do. Those are simply animals that wouldn't do well in a home, and both for the safety of the public, but also for the mental well-being of that particular animal. There may be situations where the kindest thing we can do for them is to give them a good meal, to scratch their belly if they want to be scratched, and provide them a kind passing.
So a lot of the dogs that you rescue with the Community Animal Project, they're dogs that are chained and abused by their previous owners. And that kind of treatment is sort of what put them down this path where they can't socialize, or they don't socialize well with other animals. They're not good companions. But now someone might say, oh, well, let's find another not so bad owner that they can go to. And they don't chain them up so often. They'll chain them up and they'll bring them in. I guess that's not really an answer. Huh?
No, I mean, we don't look at quantity of life. We look at quality of life. And just because a dog may be alive doesn't mean that they are truly living. And I don't think it's fair to that particular dog to be chained outside and at the mercy of someone who really truly doesn't want them or care about them because somebody doesn't want to see them euthanized.
So you save a lot of these dogs who were chained, but you also find some cats in the Community Animal Project. Tell me about Nadia. This was a cat that you guys saved.
Yeah, late on a Saturday evening, I received a phone call because there was a young man, early 20s, who had simply opened up a cat carrier and left his cat outside. And so I met him at the building to kind of see what the scoop was. And he explained to me that he thought the cat was sick and he didn't have the resources to take the cat to the vet. And so, for whatever reason, he thought the best case scenario was to leave the cat in PETA's parking lot, but unfortunately not in a carrier. And he simply let the cat loose in the parking lot. And it took us about a week to trap her. And we actually recruited the services of a sniffing dog. I forget what you call them, but a dog who sniffs out scents, who kind of told us where she had been hanging out. And it turns out the dog was correct. We set a trap in that place. And within just a few hours, she went into the trap.
Well, that dog is either a scent dog or a snitch dog, I guess.
Yeah.
But you found her, and then what happened?
We found her. She was named Nadia because after the gymnast because she was so thin. But PETA staffer ultimately adopted her. We put some weight on her, and she spent a week or two here at PETA shelter, and then was ultimately adopted by a PETA staffer here.
Now, tell me about the PETA shelter, because a lot of people say, "Oh, PETA, what do you know?" And but PETA actually is the shelter there for Norfolk, or a Norfolk shelter, and it's more than just an average shelter. It's kind of like, for some people might even think it's the Taj Mahal of shelters in some way.
Yeah, we do. We do have a shelter license here in the state of Virginia. We have 8, we call them guest rooms, or sometimes we joke and call them the inn or the spa, that we house animals in. And they all have windows to look out, so animals can see the outside, and they, can see the time changes, which is important in a shelter environment. And they all have beds or cat towers or couches for the animals to lay on. And in many of the situations that we see when we pick up a dog, that is likely the first time they have ever laid on a chair, laid on a couch, or any piece of furniture. And so, and that's really heartwarming for a lot of us to see, as a dog who's been tied up outside, especially in the cold weather, and you bring them inside and you put the heat on, and they curl themselves up into a ball on the couch. That's always a great feeling to see.
So we've talked about cats and dogs, but the Community Animal Project has apparently saved 2 pigs recently.
Yeah, we don't turn any animal away. So just this past weekend on Saturday, we made the trek to the state of Ohio to transport 2 pigs to their new home. And the pigs actually hung out here at PETA shelter for a couple of days while they got neutered and got their health certificates and all the vaccines they needed for the journey. And so we,
wait a minute. You spay and neuter pigs too?
Well, our PETA spay and neuter clinic does not, but we did subsidize their neuter surgeries at a private veterinarian where they were neutered.
Oh, I see. So, but that I'd never heard of a spay and neuter your pig program, and more shelters should have them. I guess. Well, now, and these aren't regular farm pigs, are they? They must be the pot-bellied variety.
They're pot-bellied, yes, correct. Pot-belly, and they actually, 2 sisters took them in rural Virginia, and they were being given away for free at the dollar store in the parking lot. I don't know who it was, but these women felt bad for them, so they took them in, but really weren't in a position to care for them themselves. And they also they were worried that they might be slaughtered for meat. And so that's why they decided to take them in, but really, was kind of done on whim, and they didn't know what they were doing. And, they really weren't equipped to keep these pigs long term. But we ultimately found them a home in Ohio where these 2 brothers can be together. So that was a really great kind of happy ending story for all of us, and great way to end the week.
Did the 2 brother pigs have a name?
Their new names are now Ben and Jack. If you met them, that is just the perfect name for them. It's very fitting for these boys. While they do love each other, they also fight on occasion, and they're still just typical brotherly squabbles.
Well, that's great. So you got cats and dogs and pigs saved by the Community Animal Project. And Emily, really, I thank you for taking the time to talk. We began talking about how this became a career for you, but is there any, question about how fulfilling this kind of work can be? Because I'm sure some people out there say, well, yeah, I'll do the animal rights thing on the weekends. I'll save a dog or a cat. But are there any days when you question what you do, or are there times that you are like so in need of motivation, or when you recount these stories, what do they do for you?
I love my job and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. We have such a great team of people here in the Community Animal Project, but also PETA as a whole. And the people, many of us here in the Community Animal Project, we worked together for 10 plus years. And, they are my second family. Everyone, I know they have my back, and I hope they know that I have their backs. And I really, I don't think I could have been here as long and doing this job day in and day out and seeing just some of the awful things we see of people, how they treat their animals. I don't think I could do that without such a great team of people working alongside me. And, I just couldn't picture another job environment where I would work with somebody that I have more respect for than the people that work in the Community Animal Project. And, this has been my home for so many years, and I hope this will be my home for years to come. And I think that just working alongside people that you respect, that you admire, that you also have fun with, that you can joke around with, that really makes all the difference.
Well, Emily Allen, it's always great talking to you about the Community Animal Project, about the animals you saved, and about what animal rights means to you. So thank you for joining the PETA Podcast.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Emily Allen, the Assistant Manager of CAP, the Community Animal Project of PETA. Happy 14th PETA anniversary, Emily. Check out PETA.org and read more about the animals that CAP saves, including Missy the dog, Nadia the cat, and the two pigs, the two brother pigs, Ben and Jack. Check it out at PETA.org. And that's our program. You can contact us at PETA.org. You can find me on Twitter at Emil Amok, that's EMILAMOK, or on aldef.org/blog, that's AALDEF.org/blog, or amok.com, AMOK.com. Once again, thank you for listening. Check out all our episodes on Apple Podcasts, where you can rate and review the show. It helps get the word out about the issues you care about. Our music is provided by CarbonWorks. Check them out on YouTube. Thanks for listening. Join us again next time for more insight into animal rights and the fight for a cruelty-free world on the PETA Podcast. I'm Emil Guillermo.